It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Wake in the building.
Yo.
Good to have you.
I have to comment that I love your top.
You do? Thank you.
Yes, and it's really
Everybody has been
suits
commenting.
you.
Thank you.
It really suits you.
I thought he just covered everything, but it's okay.
Yeah, sometimes covering is good.
Yeah,
Thank you,
right.
Waiki.
It's pretty.
I love the orange on you, though.
Thank you.
Anything
I was
happening?
looking for something to wear yesterday, so I took 2 outfits.
As
And
usual.
my girls said, no, it's this one. This one is bright. It's the first day of the week.
Of the month.
First day of the
Well,
month.
the first day of the week that I was at work.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
it's the
true.
first day of the month.
August 1st.
Yes, August 1st. Yes,
Yeah.
tomorrow will make it 26 years that my father passed.
Oh, wow. 26 years tomorrow. Man.
Time has gone.
Time has flown, man. Interesting.
Yes.
Let me come to you, Tokwe. How are you?
I'm good. I've been better, but I'm good. I needed to just share this story. You know, please, Nigerian workers, help Nigerian business owners. I rented a chair for my event on Saturday, and they delivered my chair at past 11 for my event that is taking place at 12. And the owner, they were telling me that they were telling my coordinator that the owner was not giving them feedback. The owner was in my office yesterday begging. As in, she had been begging since on Sunday that she needs to see me and beg. And when I saw her, I knew what the problem was. She said they had overbooked. The staff had no reason booking my event because they were overbooked. And she always told them not to overbook. What I would have done, one, I wouldn't have used her services again. And if I knew anybody using, I'll say, they might disappoint, be careful. Over time, business will shut down. Who would they blame? Founder of the business. Another person I know that has been running a business successfully in Nigeria for 30 years. This office is empty. It was supposed to do 30 years anniversary this year. Indigenous business. Successful. Man with integrity. He says it everywhere. I've never bribed anybody to collect a contract. Guess what? All his engineers were collecting bribe. He didn't know.
Normal.
And everybody has resigned when company is losing funds. Now he has contract on his hand. There's no funds to
So we the people,
sort the
again,
contracts.
we the
And
people.
the man is an honest, like he doesn't even know that they are stealing money from within him.
I see. There was one woman. She had a restaurant, but she was working, I think, in a bank. So she left her staff there. Do you know that? She was not making kobo.
They will ruin the business and then they will go
How
somewhere
she
else
even
and
found
ruin
out?
that
Somebody,
business.
one of her friends went to the restaurant. Said, you are making money. Go. I was at your restaurant yesterday.
Yeah.
She said, what? I spent 50,000. What? So you know what she did? She took the day off, got to the office like 6 a.m. before the staff arrived. As Watch was there, they were coming in with their own food, with their own this, everything. She was just at the back watching. Yeah. When she came out, all of them like, of course the business has closed down. They've all lost their jobs.
Yes.
Then they'll complain.
So it's a topic.
About it because you go to shops and you just know because of the attitude of the staff that all person who has putting money in that business is unaware of how the people who are supposed to be employees and representative of that business is just breaking it down. The way they treat you, when you even ask for something, you know, if you're the owner of the business, you walk into a shop and you ask for something and they don't have it, they want to give you another option. But this one, we don't have it. Even to get up to look around, no. I don't think that's for you. You know, things like that.
It's terrible. Unfortunately,
it's terrible.
it's a serious
Very
situation,
bad
and I think it's a topic we need to take at some point. But let's go on a break now. We have to look at the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Okay, we're going to start with the nation as usual. Subsidy paying, Tinubu rolls out relief package. Diphtheria has killed 83, infected 836. CBN exempts MFBs, that's microfinance banks, others from cash limit policy. It's time to deliver, President tells service chiefs. Labour insists on protests despite ongoing talks with government. Lagos slashes bus fares by 50%, poor families to get food packages. And the drama of ministerial screening day one. Okay. Should I start with the, which one want to start, or the Lagos State government?
So yesterday at the
a decorating ceremony of the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs. We had the Special Advisor on Special Duties and Communications, who spoke on behalf of the President, said that the President said that the military must work together to deliver the nation from insecurity and other forms of criminality. He says so far some of the successes that we have gained so far is because of that collaboration that they have amongst themselves. Yeah, he lauded the dedication, commitment, and steadfastness displayed by armed forces, acknowledging their contributions to peace and stability. The President also assured the new service chiefs that his administration remained committed to supporting them in their responsibility, and asked the armed forces to see themselves as a single family regardless of their diversity. As we know, these service chiefs were, when he picked them up, but they've been inaugurated. So we have Chief of Defense Staff as General Christopher Musa, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala.
Okay, let me take the Lagos State slashes bus fare. So, in addition to the numbers of states that have actually unveiled palliatives for their citizens, Lagos, Yobe, and Bauchi have joined the list. Some of the measures is to provide, beef up the bus fleets for their citizens, reduction of the cost of transport fares, and distribution of relief materials. Governor Sanwo-Olu has slashed the bus fares under Lamata by 50%, and he has spoken with the transport unions to reduce theirs by 25%. The governor told reporters that that the civil servants' bus fleets will also be increased, so they're going to increase the number of bus fleets available for civil servants. They said that all arrangements have also been made to provide foodstuff to vulnerable persons. So, I mean, this is from Lagos State, but there are other states who are also doing something. Let me see, Yobe State also. He has directed the State Committee on Palliatives to mobilize and distribute relief materials to the poor residents to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. The governor also asked the committee to map out a holistic approach to identify areas that require immediate, intermediate, and long-term intervention. So various states have started coming up, many of which are putting issues. The issue of transportation is key for many of them, and they're either increasing the bus fleet or reducing the transport fare, which is important for many workers, as we discussed yesterday.
What are they going to do about all the downfalls? Because they are not under Lagos State.
So the downfall, they've spoken to them already, and they've agreed to cut their own fares by 25%. So all that will start from Wednesday, that's tomorrow. So hopefully we should get that, yeah.
Okay.
The CBN exempts microfinance banks and primary mortgage banks from the cash limit policy. So we remember the cash limit, the first cash limit policy was placed on the 6th of December last year, that was limiting the individuals from being able to withdraw cash above 100,000 naira and for companies above 500,000 naira, which was adjusted January 9th of 2023 to 500,000 naira and 5 million respectively for private and companies. Now, they said because the microfinance bank are serving the poor, I was wondering, they are serving the poor and economically active poor from paying the process fee for withdrawing above the limits. So that's the key. If they want to withdraw above 500,000 naira, then they won't have to pay the processing fee that comes with it because they are microfinance banks and they are mortgage banks. This is a good thing for those that have micro. Maybe I'll go and open a microfinance bank. So because really, no, I mean open a microfinance account.
Okay.
Yes, open a microfinance account because that way you can avoid, as a business owner, you want to avoid as many fees as you can avoid when you are trying to withdraw money. But it's a good policy.
I encourage
to
business
serve,
at that level. So.
Okay.
So Labour has insisted that they're going to go on strike despite the ongoing talks with the federal government. The president, NLC president, who addressed reporters after the meeting with the Presidential Steering Committee and said that there was a plan for a peaceful protest. But they've adjourned the meeting till today, and they wanted to listen to the president's broadcast.
Okay. So I figured that was probably what happened. But let's move on now to the Punch. Subsidy pains. Labour insists on protest as Tinubu okays 500 billion naira palliative, 3,000 buses. Is our hot topic today, so we'll discuss that a bit later because everybody's talking about the president's speech last night. Abductors collected 350,000 naira to release me, says Ondo kidnap victim. Residents groan as medical workers desert collapse Ogun Health Center. Niger junta arrests top politicians. Germany withdraws aid. Fuel price hike. Drivers threaten to dump Bolt and Uber. Gallant Falcons pockets 1 billion naira. Reach World Cup last 16. Senate screens 14. Tackles nominees over age and tax. Tinubu decorates service chiefs. Generals pledge loyalty. And external reserves shed $167 million as Naira slumps further. Okay, which story are we taking? Punch?
I can go first. Yeah, I wanted to take the girl that she was 23 years old, or she's 23 years old, who was abducted by kidnappers. She said they took 350,000 from her. This is as the Amotekun, they have raided the forests and arrested, I think, 20 men suspected to be involved in kidnapping. They said they have just they engulfed the forest, so they just entered there and arrested all of them. And this girl said she was on the farm with her sisters, and they saw these 3 men coming towards them. And she said, let's let them move. The sister said, no, they won't talk to us. They won't talk. But of course, they came to them, and they arrested her, and then they kidnapped her. And they said beating her with the stem of the cassava. She should go. She should walk. So they took her away, and they said, where's her phone? She said she didn't have a phone. Her father's phone number, she doesn't know. She said she has lost her memory from the kidnap. So eventually, when she saw that there was no going back, she gave them her own number. They called. 350,000 was paid.
Oh my God.
From a farmer.
But she got, yeah. Can you imagine?
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, so let me take the stories of the nominees, the ministerial nominees. I watched it yesterday. It was quite interesting. 14 out of the 28 have been screened, although about 3 probably will still have to do a bit more investigation because there were 3 nominees that were seriously drilled by the Senate. And they said that they have to go and do a few more findings to be sure before they can confirm them. That was... the nominees were Danladi, Usev, and Ohaneyi. These were 3 they faced drilling by the lawmakers. 3 out of them, they were confronted with issues bordering on alleged age falsification, forgery, and perjury. If you recall, Danladi was taken up on an alleged court judgment banning him from holding public office for 10 years. Though he denied the allegation that never happened. The Senate President ruled that the issue will be looked into at the stage of confirmation before he can be confirmed. But though the social media were clamoring that he should be disqualified because the Supreme Court had said that he should be barred from holding any public offices for the next 10 years.
Shouldn't have been nominated.
Well, it's all about screening. And then Yusuf, I think it was the lawmaker, the senator from Lagos State, raised the issue of the age discrepancy. So he had, according to him, he had finished primary school, I think at the age, no, he entered primary school at the age of 3, according to him, and graduated at the age of 9. And he was like, that was a bit of a discrepancy. Give us an info. How is this possible? So what he should have done is to tell us categorically, yes, I entered primary school at age 3, and I have evidences to show for it, or maybe something to just like a letter from your school indicating that, because if you're going to the Senate, you should have something to show that indeed this thing. I know there are not many of us that are 3 years old entering primary school, but just in case an issue.
Primary 1 at 3.
Yeah,
then you not finish.
There's some people that are very smart. Let's not judge or assume. So you now finish primary school at the age of 9. He said, Uncle, these numbers are not looking. Although his country.
People are finishing at the age of 9.
Yeah, so his states, the other lawmakers from Benue State.
He could have had double promotion.
We're trying to explain that, listen, this guy is a professor, he has done well already, let's not focus on the issue, this is just small typographical error. say, Uncle, this is not a typographical error. Somebody to go and tell us what. But
but
either
the
way,
ones,
the
ones that,
investigations.
the ones that really, for me, that were a problem were the ones that they were saying, take a bow, take a bow.
And because they're already lawmakers. So what happened is that they served either in the 6th, 5th, or 7th Assembly. So they already have their records. They know who they are. They've been screened in the past. And so for someone like Wike, Wike was not focused.
Book Lager, because that one that his wife, he talked about his wife and that was a Supreme Court justice. Bukachia. If that one now comes, they will tell him to take a bow.
No. So, what?
How many of them? All the ones that were saying off the mic, they too will take a bow.
No.
Exactly.
So with Wike, for example.
So let us just say the truth. Let the truth be the truth.
It's
so
what
we already
said is that we didn't want to take a bow.
Okay, it's a review.
I have a
Go ahead. Let's go back to the paper review.
So we have the drivers are threatening to dump Bolt and Uber. They call themselves an amalgamated union of app-based transport workers of Nigeria. And their grouse is that they've made repeated efforts to these app-based firms to implement new prices because of the fuel subsidy removal, and of course we know the attendant increase in fuel prices. But they said that they are not getting the same responses from these firms, and well, we're Nigerians, we understand. So they're saying that, see, this is not going to pay them anymore, But Punch says it was able to reach out to Bolt, and they said that they empathize with the drivers and also their riders. They also understand the economic challenges that we're facing right now, but that there's a way that they go about it to make sure that, they come up with a plan that serves both the driver and the rider. I think it makes sense. I think it's sometimes unfair with these apps. It seems that they don't respond. This is the second time we're seeing this. They don't respond immediately to the economic changes that happen in Nigeria and Africa. In the Oyinbo countries, they do it quick, sharp. But here, we almost have to have these drivers threatening to stop using their apps for them to step in.
Okay.
Please, I need to take this story.
In Punch?
Important, yes.
Another story in Punch?
Yes. I'm not taking a story in Punch.
Go ahead.
Residents are groaning. A community in the Odeda local government area of Ogun State on Monday is appealing to the government to help them rebuild their hospital. This hospital serves over 100 communities, and the hospital collapsed. The hospital was built by a federal lawmaker as a constituency project in 2007, and the health workers have deserted the facility. Punch put a picture of what the facility looked like. That the community people are saying they don't have access to health care, and about 100 communities are seeking. Over 5,000 members are benefiting from that facility almost on a daily basis before its collapse. That they need, all the medical staff have left the place. They don't want to risk their life because of the devastating situation, and they're appealing to the government that the rain is falling. Please help us.
That's a very good story to take.
It has no roof.
That's a good story to take, because if the lawmaker built it back then, what happened?
Somebody there's a local government chairman.
Maintenance. Moving on now to Daily Sun. Tinubu hints of fuel price intervention. Senate screens confirms Wike, Momo, others as ministers. Diphtheria, 83 deaths recorded, says NPHCDA. FG raises security concerns over second Niger breach. Court restrains Abia panel from probing ex-governor Ikpeazu and others. Protests not going back, says Labour. Anger swells in Oyo, Osun as protesters block government house and roads. And sit at home, enough is enough, says Ohaneze. Ohaneze, indeed. Yeah, which story are we taking?
Okay, so the federal government has urged security agencies to please intensify surveillance on the multi-billion second Niger bridge to prevent miscreants from vandalizing it. So there's just been stories that, miscreants have been going there and trying to remove like the metallic components of the bridge. We had the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, Mahmoud Amman. He said that he went on an inspection. He said that they're afraid that this bridge will now become unmotorable if vandals continue to have their way, saying that these miscreants are after the metal components. He's also saying that after asking that security surveillance activities should be intensified, but there's also the fact that communities around there also need, they play a role in protecting this infrastructure. It says the federal government has played its part. Now local government and all these communities have to also play their part in making sure that they protect this infrastructure so that other people can use it. He says, as far as he's concerned, free movement is a human right, and what these vandals are doing is taking away the human rights of Nigerians to ply that bridge. Okay, so let me talk about Ohaneze Ndigbo. The Apex organization led by the President General, Chief Emmanuel Wanyawu, in a statement said has condemned the continuous sit-at-home by Mr. Simon Ekpa, the leader of the autopilot version of IPOB. I don't know what that means. The Finnish-based Ekpa had declared a 2-week sit-at-home starting yesterday, July 31st. But Wanyawu said such orders had subjected people to serious fear, trepidation, and untold hardships. He invited ECPA to a roundtable, lamenting that their actions had frustrated efforts to woo investors into the region. He said, unfortunately, several non-state actors have really attempted to unleash mayhem on the people. And he says that they've maimed, killed people from the southeast in this region, and they've lost properties worth trillions have been lost to these whole issues of sit at home, that many people are not able to go to work, they're not able to feed. The Southeast is noted for micro, small, and medium-scale enterprise, indigenous manufacturing, fabrication. All this has put to a halt because of the sit-at-home. So he's asking that federal government should exercise the highest degree of prudence in the discharge of their official duties to avoid further loss of innocent lives in Igbo land, and saying that we cannot continue with this sit-at-home. I don't understand how Simon Ekpa is just able to
achieve that. Even Nnamdi Kanu said, yes, he's now appealing to Simon Ekpa to stop the sit-at-home.
Wow.
Was it on our platform that you put this speech?
Yes, his video, speech. Yes.
I mean, I don't know how you can live abroad and then control people in Nigeria. If you want to come here, come and do it here. Come and join in the sitting at home, so you're not making money on the Mondays and you're seeing the impact of being stuck in the house on Mondays. Please, let me take the story of anger. People are angry, obviously. In Osun State as well as in Oyo State, there was a protest by all the labor workers, including the NLC, trade union, and NUP, as well as NOJ, that's local government workers. And they stopped the governor from being able to exit his place. That was Agodi Ibadan yesterday, caused major traffic. What was their complaint? They want increase in their salary. They said there are a lot of deductions being made to their salary. They didn't say what the deductions were for, but they said there were deductions made that they wanted it to be paid. Then those that have retired are saying that they haven't gotten their gratuity yet, and that they want a letter, the letter of promotion for year 2021-2022 also should be addressed. Now, in reply, the Commissioner for Information and Orientation for the Oyo State highlighted the challenges the government is facing. Let me say, 5 billion is their internally generated revenue. 5 billion is their allocation. 2.8 internally generated revenue. The salaries of Oyo State alone is 7.3 billion. So if their internal generated revenue is 2.8 and they are getting 5 billion they got 5 billion from FAC, the Federal Allocation Account, it means they have less than about 3 billion to just carry out infrastructural activity. They said they ensured that they are paying the 30,000 minimum wage. They also promoted, recruited 2,000 civil servants, and they promoted 1,000, that they are doing their best with the resources that they have, and that is a tough time, and the government is imploring the citizens of Oyo State to calm down. There
2,000 people earning 7.something billion.
No.
They
added 2,000
in
addition, but
7.3
before it was running up and down with Wiki.
Okay, let's move on now to Vanguard. Tinubu attacks hardship with 500 billion naira palliatives. Labour insists on nationwide mass protest from tomorrow. 110 suspects arrested as Fintiri relaxes curfew, visits looted warehouses. Senate halts screening of 3 ministerial nominees over alleged forgery and age falsification. Tension as ex-Emir Sanusi's portrait appears in Kano government house. Subsidy removal, Tinubu orders federal institutions to stop arbitrary fees hike. Supreme Court, NBA Obaseki Mba mourned as Justice Nweze dies at 64. Okay, so go ahead.
NLC is saying that they're insisting on going ahead with their protest tomorrow. The NLC president, Mr. Joe Ajero, says that the plan for workers to proceed on a peaceful protest on Wednesday has not changed. And also, you know, there are fears that the protest may be hijacked by hoodlums. He says that that has never happened in the history of workers' protests, and also says it's the responsibility of security agencies to provide security for protests to protect, you know, the workers. And then they said that they had waited to hear the president's speech before they made this particular statement, and that, you know, reacting to Tinubu's plan to intervene on exchange rates over inflation and high cost of gasoline, he says that by the time you have a single market and you are not having anything that has comparative advantage, your energy is import-driven, then how are you going to control it? How are you going to control somebody that exchanged $1 at about 900 naira? Are you going to tell him to sell below the price? How are you going to tell even NEPA today, with the cost of production, not to increase tariff? Even corn sold at 18,000 naira in villages by February, now it's about 56,000. How are you going to control it? So they're saying in their own, what they're saying is that they do not think that what he has ruled out is really going to, the economic policies will in any way positively impact what we're facing right now. That's inflation.
Okay, let's go on a break. That's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, everybody's discussing the president's speech. We'd like to hear Nigerians' feelings. What are your thoughts on it? This is the only show that gives you the perspective of Nigerians. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu spoke to Nigerians, explaining to us his plans between now and next year, and especially concerning the subsidy removal and palliatives for the people. And everybody's been talking about the president's speech. What are your thoughts on it? Joining us on the show now is a professor of macroeconomics at the Pan-Atlantic University, Lagos, Professor Perekuna Erega. He will be speaking on his thoughts on the speech. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, Amma.
And we'll be having a conversation with the ladies also, because I would actually like us to discuss this speech in 5 parts. The first part is the speech, the connection of the speech. Did it connect to Nigeria? Was it empathetic? Did it connect to Nigerians? I'd like us to discuss that. Secondly, were there any punchlines or phrases that caught your attention, you know? Then we'll discuss the economic policy, and then the implementation and who's going to drive these new policies. And finally, the elephants in the room that nobody ever talks about. The elites, who's going to prosecute them? Do we know their names? Who are they? I mean, why do we keep talking about them as if they are these ghosts that they don't have names? So the president referred to them, and they're the ones eating out our economies in the past all these years. So these are the various angles I'd like us to discuss. But you can call and join the conversation. You can call us on 081 07641 679 090241 63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read the tweets. All right, so let's start first with the speech. You know, Mariam was saying something in the makeup room that I guess we're not so used to president talking to us the way. So that's why everybody's talking on and on about the speech, you know, how he started and said that I'm not going to use any big words. I'm going to break it down so you understand. I mean, how did that? I'll come to you, sir, in a second, but let me just hear the third ladies and I'll come to you. What are your own thoughts? Waike, let me start with you. Your initial thoughts.
Well, it was first a shock that president can talk to somebody. Because me, I'd forgotten president used to talk to somebody. I thought that, and then that they can even actually use the teleprompter and not read. I didn't know that president could read. From teleprompter, you know, I'm used to...
They're putting their head down and reading, yes.
And reading,
Right.
So I was like, oh. You know, so I was pleasantly surprised. I was surprised that he was going to talk to us.
Yeah.
But I think that he should do more of that. But let me tell you, he talked about the people that are enriching themselves through subsidy and all this. For us, Nigerians, what we would like is call these people out, arrest them, let us know them. Then we will know that, yes,
serious.
you are fighting and you are serious. Because we know that it exists. We don't want you to cover for them. We want you to bring them out.
Okay.
So that, at least even if you don't arrest them, we can be pointed, okay, you are the criminal that has been chopping my money.
Name and shame.
Hey, name and shame. That, thank you. Me, that's what I would love.
Okay, let me come to...
Sorry, having said that, I thought it was in good taste to talk to us.
Okay. Mariam, want to jump in?
Yes,
Your thoughts on the speech?
My thoughts, what I said was, it shows that the caliber of presidents we've had before have been a little below par in terms of communicating with us. Because just for a president to communicate with us, everybody is talking about the tone of the conversation. When it's just supposed to be a conversation. So it was it felt like he was talking to me. He understood that there's a Mariam Longe that lives in Lagos that's going through these issues, and I'm discussing the issues that she's facing right now. It felt humane. It wasn't someone just reading a speech off, you know how it is now. They read the words, following the words, and that's it. So, and for that, I'm expecting more from him. So if you can figure out the problem already at this stage in a way that you can articulate it and talk to me about it, then the next stage is, what are you going to do? And I'm expecting much more from you because I can see that you understand that. Okay. It's also, okay, you said we'll discuss
we'll talk about that later. Talk about me before I come to our guest. What are your initial thoughts on the connection? Did it connect with you at all?
Yeah. It felt good to hear from the president. We've had good presidents that were communicating with us. GEG used to do a sit-down, a media parley. But, when Mariam said it, and I saw on social media, people were like this is the first time we're having presidents speak. It's because in the last 8 years, we did not experience often things like this. So it's 8 years that has made us forget, and I'm happy that we're seeing a good indication. I loved the speech. It did not address the concerns I raised yesterday. I guess they had already prepared the speech ahead of my conversation yesterday. I would like the president to address the conversation that we had on the show yesterday about what we expected from the speech, and I'm hoping his next speech would carry that. But people were inspired. People felt a renewed hope, and were waiting eagerly to see the physical evidence of the things that were promised in the speech.
So, Mr. Efekba, let me come to you. What are your own thoughts? Do you think the speech connected with you?
Okay, so for me, first, I think we'll need to commend the president.
Okay.
In the sense that I've been involved in maybe in previous government, maybe writing policy documents. And one of the problems we have is that beyond just announcing a policy, you need to communicate with the people. And so one of the things I saw yesterday was a president that has that readiness and preparedness to communicate with the people. And I hope it is sustained, right? Because the sustainability is very important, because at the beginning you can see a president talking to us, but after some time. So I think it should be sustained. And I think it's a sign that is ready. Because if you look at the speech itself, you find out that it's not just a speech that was just written to him alone. He was able to digest the speech and then communicate to the people and then pass that information that I wanted to pass.
Okay, so I was going to jump to economic policy because...
Wait, what were your own thoughts?
My own thoughts, I think I was refreshing, just like everybody else, to see him speak to us, and I like the fact that he didn't use flowery words, those words that jumped over Nigerians, the usual, I will assure you, he spoke in plain English that everybody could understand. Because a lot of times they see this, the person writing the speech feels like, let me show Oga that I went to school. But forgetting that Oga is communicating to Nigerians who need to hear. So what he did yesterday, communicated. Which is good. So I thought it was refreshing. But let's talk about, I was going to go to economic policy, but were there any things that, I wrote down a few things that jumped at you, and I'd like you guys at some point to let me know those parts of his speech that jumped at you. But let's go straight into the economic policy on the various things he wants to do and how realistic, and that's where I come to you, sir, because you'll be able to better explain to us. The one that I would like to start with, I don't know which the ladies would like to start with, is the 75 billion naira. They plan to disburse to 75 enterprises with 9% interest rate between now and March 2024. That's 75 manufacturing enterprises. He's specific. How, first of all, I said, where did the money come from? But then they said that they earned 1 trillion naira in the last 2 months. So I'm thinking, I guess they have money to spend. But do you think this is really possible?
Okay, first is, I want to say that Nigeria economy, one of the major problems we have today is economic diversification. And that has constrained us in providing the needed jobs. That's constrained us in the area of revenue generation. So I think, and one of the key reasons why that has been happening is because of the slow pace of the manufacturing sector. So if the president today is focusing on the manufacturing sector, and I think it's something to commend him for, because the manufacturing sector has all it takes for employment elasticity, that's all it takes for export diversification, and also for revenue generation at the same time for job creation. So I think that is something that we should commend him for. But your question is how realistic it is. I think, for me, I think that it's not because, for me, I will start by saying that subsidy removal, I won't say probably we have saved a lot. And this is the reason why I'm saying so. We have a deficit that is running to about 11 trillion, right, in 2023 budget. So if there could be savings from subsidy, I think that we shouldn't be having that deficit. So one of the things that happened during the subsidy era was that we were actually borrowing to pay subsidy, not because we're actually having revenue. That's what it means. If we can have that 11 trillion, right? So the removal only saved us from borrowing more to pay. That is what it means to me as an economist. However, because the government has that interest for the manufacturing and because of the role of the manufacturing sector, I think it's government. Borrowing to spur the manufacturing sector is not bad. And I think it's something to look out for. But my caveat for that is that we have seen in the past where such money has been released for a lot of sectors, right? How do we implement and ensure that it has the impact that it should have? Because so that it should not be hijacked by politicians and all of that. Let's ensure proper monitoring and disbursement, and then at the end, we also monitor this enterprise to ensure that they do what is required based on the goals of government. Thank you.
Let me... What jumped up? Okay, you want to do it?
Yes, I want to just do because I did a program last year that was sponsored by BOI with LBS, and I met entrepreneurs that were into manufacturing who got fund from BOI without any connection to expand their business, and they can tell you for a fact the impact on their businesses. That they were employing 3 people before, but when they got the bigger machinery, lasting machine to do the shoes, they now employed 8 more people because they could produce more and increase. So it can actually work. I'm looking forward to them breaking down, maybe a breakdown in future of how
sectors?
This, no, the sectors we're going to focus on and how you can access the fund. I want a press release on that from the person who is in custody of that, say is it BOI or is it a CBN policy that will go through general banks. Would like to know.
Just a cut in. If in the speech, he made a statement with regards to how the fund will be disbursed also, right? And the statement says that they are going to use development finance institutions and commercial banks, and at the same time, the microfinance banks, right? So BOI is one of the development finance institutions. So I think if they can follow that process very well, beyond giving them the money, but ensure that that disbursement takes place, and also ensure that the companies that we're talking about, I give you a simple case, and I don't want to mention names. We have had cases where companies, are formed because there is availability of funds. So we should ensure that these companies are actually real.
Existing.
They are existing, and then they have access to them. We can track their record over the time.
Very, very crucial too. That's what I just be watching for. Go ahead, Mariam.
So what also struck me was the fact that he mentioned the informal sector. We have talked very much about how our economy is largely informal. And, that's why I said for me, I felt like he understood the issue. But he said something about nano businesses and how much that would be spent, there. And he was talking about local government. And I'm wondering what would be the criteria of being a nano business? Is it the woman that's selling tomatoes in the market? What would be, who owns nano business? What is it?
Okay, so nano businesses are businesses owned by they are like one-man businesses, right? Those you see on the street who are doing small-scale businesses. And they are majorly one-person business, right? But the only point which you are making is, how do we identify such people? And how would the fund get to them, right? Because we all know quite well that we have had this kind of disbursement in the past. We had the case of the 10,000 naira, right? I will sure that these ones are not selected politically. So that selection process is very, very important. But I think they said they are going to be giving about 50,000 to...
So yes. According to what he's saying, they're going to be giving 1,300 of these nano businesses per local government across the nation. So in Koshofe right now, 1,300 people will get 50,000 naira for their business. But the problem with our people is that they get the 50K, they go and buy Brazilian hair.
No, I doubt.
No, don't say that.
It's not,
don't even say that. There are people who get 50. So we're handing over 50K.
President Jonathan tried it with what is it, You Win, where they gave young people money. They didn't. Many of them didn't use it for the businesses. So how do we ensure they use this 50,000 naira for the nano business?
Before you ensure that one, ensure that the people that you give the money to disburse are not giving their own people.
Yes.
Like I'm chairman of local government. Well,
that
money is coming. Oh, it's only people in APC. I will give that money. And the people that have been nice to me in APC, not just everybody in APC, but only the people that have been nice and that have hailed me. You have to make sure, because if you don't monitor how that money is disbursed, it will just become like a party thing.
Yeah. For me also, because it's the informal sector, I think my problem is where's the data to show, especially we're talking of nano businesses. Who is going to say, I'm a tomato seller, I'm a yam seller, I carry, where is the data to show that? How long have you been doing this business in this local government? So it is doling out, it looks like it's going to be doling out cash again.
That whoever the minister is in charge, whoever it's going to be, will have to provide for us.
But we have.
We have data
on the informal sector. Every member, my mom sells charcoal. She's a member of the Charcoal Sellers Association of Amuwo.
Yes.
All of them are selling. They know the number, each of them.
Yes. So there's a structure that we don't know.
So, and they do association meeting. My mom is a contractor. She supplies sand. She's a member of the Contractors Association of Lagos.
Yes.
On at that level, and even in the local government level. And they do monthly meetings.
Yes.
So if we actually want to disburse this money to the nano businesses, there are ways to get it there.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just for
make
the
sure
intention to be
an integrity of the people who are actually going to do it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go on to integrity. The other part of 75 billion naira for 100,000 MSMEs and startups with 500,000 to 1 million at 9% interest rate. So the big guys, manufacturers, are getting $1 billion naira. The MSMEs are getting between 500 to 1 million. The nano guys are getting, the other MSMEs are getting 100,000, and the nano businesses are getting 50,000. And everything total, I think, is about 125 billion, I believe, for all.
Where are we getting it from?
They said it just, guys, let me ask you that question, because they said it earned 1 trillion. I don't know if that's where they
So I think I've buttressed that point to say that I think one of the things people were kicking against was getting, is it 10,000 they wanted to disburse to 8,000 household, right? So why people were kicking against that is because you are borrowing to disburse for consumption purpose. So that is very wrong. You cannot borrow, because if you have saved the money to give to them, it's fine.
Yes.
But you are borrowing for them. Not only that, you are giving 10,000 to just a household of about four persons. If you divide that per year, per month, they'll be getting, maybe each household will be getting about less than 100 naira. And poverty line is about $2, which is about 1,600. So what will be the effect of this? Those are the issues that were coming up. But now, for me, like I will say, I don't think there is any serious savings, even though it looks like a savings, right? In the sense that we're not going to borrow to subsidize, right? But if we now have access to funds for the purpose of giving to SMEs, right, and then the manufacturing sector, I think is something that's commendable. The only problem I have is the framework which we are talking about in terms of disbursement, and not just disbursement. And that thing to also keep track of is the fact that you are giving, and I think somebody raised it among you, is the fact that when you give this money to the person,
use it for the purpose.
Okay, what framework? Because it's possible that we can even supply the goods instead of the cash. There are framework to do that. So if you understand what the business the person is doing, then we can supply the goods to the person, what that amount, instead of the cash to the person. Because in this subsidy removal, a lot of
cash enters your hand,
we drag that money away.
So there are three broad things this president wants to do as regards palliatives. First is your enterprises, the businesses, and then he's working on agriculture, and then he's talking on transportation. So we'll go into agriculture, what he's promising. Mariam, you have that?
Yes, I have. So he's saying that He's ordered a release of 200,000 metric tons of grains to strategic reserves to households across the 36 states and the FCT to moderate prices, providing 225,000 metric tons of fertilizer, seedlings, and other inputs to farmers who are committed to our food security agenda. And the question will be, we have done things like that before. Things don't end up where they are meant to end up. What will be the different strategy in this case to make sure that people that are meant to get it actually get it? There's even more, I don't know, do we have the time to say it? The plan to support the cultivation of 500,000 hectares. The administration invests 50 billion each to cultivate 150 hectares of rice and maize. How are we going to do it this time around?
Rice and maize. I think under 50 billion for cassava and one of them.
Yes.
That is also about 100.
That's 50 billion, 100,000 hectares for wheat and cassava.
So I think we all know quite well that food inflation is very high. I think it's above 25%, and that has serious implications for household. So the release of the grain and all of this that they plan to do is to ensure that there is supply. Don't forget that one of the drivers of inflation in Nigeria is not demand-driven, it is supply side, right? And one of the major causes, for instance, flood that we have. The flood we have had over the years is one of the major causes of food prices being on the increase. The second one is insecurity. Insecurity in most parts of Nigeria.
Yes.
So, and that has cut down supply. And because supply has fallen, demand outweighs supply, then you expect prices to go up. That has been the reason why you have food prices on the increase. So what they are doing and what they plan to do, and the framework issues is another thing, but if it is successful, it will ensure supply to the market. And when supply increases, we expect price to be moderated. And I think that is the objective they want to achieve for now.
Interesting.
So I know that we have, I was trying to get the number of University of Agriculture that we have in Nigeria. And one of the things that I have suffered, I have 10 acres of yam planted, and I had processed to plant about 30 acres of cassava. I would have done 50 acres of yam, but the cost of planting yam is very high. So we're going to do the cassava, and the farmers I brought absconded halfway into doing the ridges. We have a challenge with labor, and we have a challenge with the cost of land. But the solution is within us already, because every University of Agriculture has land, have students, and can do this. We can actually channel these 100 acres and divide it into the University of Agriculture and ensure, because that way we can track what we're producing, and the money is going into that space. Then you can now have manufacturers that will process the produce out of it.
What about regular farmers outside the agriculture?
Why I'm saying that is because the reality happens. I've spoken to several farmers that have challenges, and we already have a structure that is meant to feed those regular farmers that is not working effectively.
But if we don't fix that challenge, if we don't fix the challenge of
because regular farmers, their jobs, that's their livelihood.
Insecurity is a huge challenge.
But they have to fix it now. Maybe that is why they have new service chiefs.
So I think there are two things. You know, in the policy space, right? You agree with me that there are what we call short-term policies. Right? Because there are some things that we have to do them at the short term because they need this. There's a pressing need for that. Okay. The other point is in the medium to long term, what is the government going to do? And that might come into the kind of policy that you are talking about. But also don't forget that today, I am in the university, right? Beyond the fact that I'm currently in the Palliatives University, I was formerly in the University of Lagos. And one of the problems I have today, and I think the president also talked about issue about loan and all of that, which is education. But one of the issues is that if you go to most of these agricultural universities, they are now doing courses in economics, in political science, or some of these things. So they've shifted from their mandate. The land might be there, but you might come across all of this. So that brings us to what is the medium and long-term plan for government to ensure that these universities return back to their mandate and also keep track of what they should do. And that is also very important.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, the buses. CNG fueled buses for states, 20-seater buses for the states. They say they plan to get about 3,000 units of these across the nation. I don't know, first of all, say they're going to be investing, is it 100 billion naira? 100 billion to invest. I don't know how many. Lagos State also has a deal with one company, I'm not sure we have the banks, where they actually, I saw some of those buses driving recently in Lagos, so they're in use. But again, how would this be implemented? The numbers, how soon? I mean, these are great ideas, but I just want to know how.
Because there's something we always say, there's something we always say is that we've never had a problem with policies or good ideas in Nigeria. It's always the implementation.
So for me, I think with the way the president has come up with his policies, I want to give him the benefit of doubt that we should expect some good implementation. That's what I think, and also of the fact that he's trying to set up his cabinet, right? Maybe with the cabinet coming on board, all of this will be in place. But I think one of the advice I would give beyond giving buses is that today we have tricycle, which we call the Ketenapep, that can also be gas powered. Because if you talk about the household, it might not really be long buses. There might be people going along these short distances that we have. So we should also be thinking about spending some amount of money to bring in such kind of, transport system.
It's becoming a very nuisance. Maybe the Kurupe's in Lagos might be better because those.
So my point is that they are gas powered, right?
Yeah.
We also have those kind of keke napep that can, because that will also bring down. We're talking about palliative within the short term.
Yeah.
But
she's saying that the
keke napep took them off.
Give us stress.
It's giving everybody stress.
Let me go on a break. When we come back, we continue this conversation and take a few calls. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing our president's speech and your thoughts on it. We'd like to hear our viewers because this is one of the shows that you get Nigerians' views. You can call us on 081-076-41679, 090-241-63440. Let's hear your thoughts. Are you inspired? Do you think the speech resonated with you? And how do you hope that it's implemented? Let me come back to our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah, please. We were talking about the transportation solution and getting buses, and I understand the importance of mass transportation. We don't have enough of it, but Lagos State can afford to have the big BRT bus kind of system. But if you don't even need to go far, just Ibadan here, the buses it's not even buses, a car, those blue small cars that are being used. So we cannot bring in a solution to people. It needs to be, solution must come inside out. So the people's current reality must be converted to provide that ease. So if we are saying for people that are in Oyo State now, because this is their means of transportation, those small cars, we are going to now convert them from petrol to the gas. Then in Lagos, where we have BRT, we would increase the fleet. Maybe in other states where there are cosmopolitan cities, we can increase the fleet, but it must come from inside out. There was something that came into my mind. Another way we can channel this, our agric fund, because food is a major part of our expense.
Let me pause you. I have someone on hold for a minute. Gufo, thanks for calling. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I need some volume.
My issue here is that I'm very happy with the president's speech. You know, we had to leave work early to come and listen to the president.
I had to leave work early.
Yes. So one of the things that can work, especially with businesses, is that they have to channel that money to the microfinance bank. If they don't do that, it will be political. And if it is political, it's going to be a scandal. And the government won't want it. So you must look for microfinance banks to implement that project. Another thing I think the government should look increase in charges of the universities. I think many students won't be able to return to school. I think the government should look into that very critically. And I think that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. That's another part I forgot to mention, the school fees. Yeah. You know, he told them that he lifts the restriction on the school loan that was, we had discussed it earlier when the policy was brought up. and those restrictions have also been lifted by the president. So we see that he has listened and he's responding.
We really need to give credit for that. But, before I give the suggestion, yes, I must give credit for the fact that this showed that there was a bit of reflection on the feedback that he got when he first released the first move on palliative, and he dialed it back, and they gave him more thoughts and came out with something that, even if you want to suggest, you cannot fault anything in this current his speech yesterday and what they want to do. One of the things that farmers need is tractors. As I was complaining during the break, I was saying we don't have laborers that want to work. But the truth is, nobody wants their child to be a laborer manually tilling the ground. What we have tractors, and we're supposed to be able to have tractors help us to cover more land over that time. So it would help, because there was a policy one time that they were providing tractors in all local governments. You can go to your local government and collect a tractor. But where are those tractors now? Not being maintained, broken down. So you cannot, Ekpe should have a tractor. They used to have. We cannot get it. So if they give local governments where people there are predominantly farmers, and you put a few tractors there that is available for owners of farm to come and collect it, they can cover more acres of land in one day than they would have if they were manually.
I remember during the campaign, I think I was at jury that was saying something about that the government plans to incentivize some of these things. So these laborers who maybe they don't want to be laborers, you can there's proper incentives for this. Many will be willing to get into that trade and, you know, at least ride the tractor and get some revenue. I mean, as we discuss the implementation, you have a point? Go ahead.
Yes, NLC. Where our president had talked about our salary review. He says it's something that we should look forward to. And of course, we know that it will be upward, but we still have NLC saying, you know what, we're still going to go ahead with our protest. And I read in the papers today some of the things that they have an issue with. They still feel that, you know, they said the president of the NLC had asked, he said that, are you going to tell, like someone who buys it says, by the time you have a single market and you are not having anything that has comparative advantage, your energy is import-driven, then how are you going to control it? So they're saying someone buys their dollar for 900. Are you going to tell that person to sell it for less? He's talking about NEPA. He says, how are you going to tell NEPA to subsidize tariff when the cost of production for NEPA is high? So what do you think, why do you think that just talking about the salary review is not enough for NLC? And do you think the points that they are making concerning the exchange rate is valid?
Okay, so there are two things about, and I think the president also made mention of that, about the implication of exchange unification. Now, the idea behind that concept is that we all know, prior to that time, we have an official that was about 450. And then the parallel was going to about 700.
Yep.
Now, in economics, when it comes to exchange rate issues, one of the idea behind having two markets is that you don't want fiscal pressures to go to domestic prices, because domestic prices will increase. Because as government spends, right, and by borrowing, domestic prices will increase. So what they do is to create a second market where that pressure will go to that and then that secondary, what we call the parallel market rate, will increase, instead of it going to the market, to the domestic economy directly. That is the first idea. However, when the gap between the two of them widens, like we had in the last case where it was about 70%, that isolation of exchange rate from going into the domestic prices will break down. So prices will be uncontrollable, right? And that means that we need to unify. That's one point. The second point also is that when you have this kind of different windows in operation, one of the things that will basically happen in that system is that those who should keep their money in the banks for us to finance the real sector, we owe their money for the purpose of round tripping. And that will cause a lot of us not having to create the kind of jobs we need to create, because banks need to have a lot of money to be able to create more money in terms of giving out loan. So you see domestic interest rate being on the increase. And it's on that basis that unification is beneficial. Important. And it will take away those speculations and what we call the round tripping of people not keeping their money in the bank for that purpose that could finance the real sector. That is the point. So, come in. You want to say something?
I have a caller, 1 second. It's been holding for a while. I'll come back to you. I want you to finish that point. But Olaleka has been holding for a while. Good morning, Olaleka.
Yeah, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my first time calling.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, my contribution is regarding the president's speech yesterday. This is what we have been clamoring for. We need a realistic government who can look into the pains of people and where the it affects us more. We are talking about transportation. I think the transportation should be more than the long buses, as you rightly said initially. However, coming down to Marwa might make it a bit porous, but we can do more on these small buses so that the people who cover short places to their marketplaces can also benefit from it.
Right.
As the long bus cover a long distance. That is one. Two, regarding the student hike, student fee, if we are looking to a palliative state in this kind of period where everybody is feeling pain, I don't think increase in school fees, increase in food, increase in any other social commodities should be applicable by now. I will appeal to the first President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to take a drastic action to look into that so that the increase on education or any other means for now should not be in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alaliko. All right. Yeah, go ahead. You're going to say something.
I was going to ask, this, how can they stop this exchange rate? Because even now, the rates are still not the same. So how can the government actually put a stop to that large margin?
So I think what they've done is a short-term policy, but at the medium to long term, we need to plan better for our economy. What we are all facing what the past, what we have done wrong, right? So the only way you can stabilize exchange rate in your system is productivity and export. And currently now, because what determines your exchange rate is the demand and supply of your currency, right? The demand for our currency is very low. And what determines your demand is your export. As of today, the only thing we export is crude oil. But at the back end also, we are now importing so much for what we call the refined one. So beyond all of these policies, I think the government now need to think through how do we ensure that our refineries work so that this huge amount of forex being used to import which we call the fuel, will be reduced. So that pressure on our foreign reserve will
So these manufacturers that are about to give 1 billion naira, hopefully they're manufacturing goods that we can export.
Well, I think so, but also the fact that that's why I talk about the fact that we need to think through what we call the long-term or medium-term plan. Because one of the things killing productivity today is institution, critically institution. The second one is energy. Cost of production is very high, right? Power is so critical for manufacturing to thrive. And one of the reasons why manufacturing is struggling in Nigeria today is cost of production. The other thing that the president talked about that I think I liked is what we call the multiple tax system that we have. Because that is also, adding to the cost of production that we have in Nigeria. Just set up a small business around your environment, and you will see all kinds of people coming in with apron to knock at your door. And you don't even know which one to pay. If in the developed country, any of these countries, if you set up a business, you know the tax to pay, and then it's so transparent that you know where to go and nobody will knock at your door. Because the system is, and in the digitalized world that we have today, somebody has to come and knock at your door, and then you don't have a place to confirm. So all of these are adding to the cost, and it's affecting manufacturing. And
let me take this call from Lawal. He's been holding. Good morning, Lawal. Are you there?
Good morning, madam.
You're live. Thanks for calling.
Lawal was from Kodu.
You're welcome.
I just appreciate what your explanation so far. So, but that's what I just want to chip in one or two things. Concerning the distribution under the palliatives for agricultural sector, the one of these ways that we can get it right is getting to national growth statistics. The NBS have conducted a lot of surveys, and they have a lot of framework concerning this agricultural. All these sectors, they have their frames. So I think if they can approach them, they can get them.
All right. Thank you very much, Lawal. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like what you said about the power, because all those are having to buy diesel, having to buy NEPA is not, and then the refineries that are not working. I think that if government really faced those refineries, it would
There will be.
it will just change the economy,
Yes.
you know.
So my point on that is that, and I know all of us are expecting Dangote to come aboard very soon, right? Which is very fine. Even when they were talking about subsidy removal, one of my points then is that NNPC determines the supply. In a system where you remove subsidy and you want price system to be the allocation of resources, demand that there should be free entry and exit. So supply comes from several people, not from one person.
Yes.
So my point is that even though we are expecting Dangote to come, we need to make our refineries to work so that it will not be a monopolized market in terms of supply. So that price will be a reflection of demand and supply.
Exactly. So we thought that they've opened up, they've given out more licenses to more importers. But how come they're not yet on board? I heard that it was 50-something or 57 of them are yet to bring in their fuel.
Yeah, but also don't forget that as at the time the president made the announcement in May 29, our exchange rate was about 450, right? And NNPC was really
that's
important.
Official exchange.
Yes, the official. That was what the NNPC was actually. In fact, NNPC, what they were doing that because they are the one exporting the crude, they get the money in dollars. They also use that to be able to import. That's what they were doing. But you know, now that we have deregulated, and then unification has also come in, you know, exchange rate would have moved to about 750, not 400. So one of the reasons why government is having a lot of money to share, in fact, it's not because we produced more. It was actually because formerly government was collecting their foreign earning in 450, but now at 750. So you expect more money to go into fact. That is what one of. So, but at the same time, also in our spending, that 750 will reflect.
Yes.
Okay, it also reflects. That's why when they now had this recent adjustment, people were shouting. We don't need to shout because we have already removed subsidy. So anytime exchange rate moves up as one of the elements that determines the landing cost, then the price will also adjust.
So I want us to go back to, you know, when we were talking about ways to stimulate, this is about stimulating the economy, and you were breaking down the fact that this is a short-term project, like is to provide immediate solution. When we are thinking of long-term projects, because how many months would you call short-term, and how long would you call long-term? Because Dr. Limde Emmanuel came last week and he told us that that it takes 6 months gestation period for a policy to come into, for you to see the full effect of policy, and that it's not about to get better, like we're going to see the price of things still go up. So what is our short term and what is our medium term? Like what are we expecting to happen?
Okay, so in policy implementation, especially fiscal policy, right? Policies don't have a instantaneous effect on the economy. It takes a lapse of time. And what I mean by that is, and it also depends on the kind of policy. For instance, if you have to construct a road, if his road is going to last for 3 years, the positive effect will come after 3 years. So policies don't have direct, immediate effect. The effect is for a long time before it comes, right? But this kind of palliative are more of almost instantaneous, like giving cash transfer. They are more of instantaneous effect. They will just, you know, maybe tame the effect for just a short period. However, we all know, and I think the presidential team also know very well that when you talk about economic transformation, it takes sustained growth to do that. And what drives sustained growth is productivity. Productivity is the only thing. So all of these things are just short-term distortions. And productivity is very low in Nigeria. And one of the reasons why it's low is energy is one critical aspect
cost of production.
But if there is stable electricity, I can tell you that almost all our manufacturing sectors will thrive. That's why.
Let me take this call. Hassan has been calling from Kaduna. Thanks for calling.
We won't buy generator again, sorry.
Hassan, you're live.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Hello?
You're live. Go ahead, Hassan.
Yeah, my name is Esson, not Hassan.
Oh, Esson from Kaduna. Thanks for calling.
E-S-A-N, yeah. And Mariah, I've been listening to the program. And second to the last caller talked about transparency. How transparent are we in Nigeria? The policies are good. And we're talking about implementation. That's a major problem in Nigeria. So how do we become transparent? We need to go back to status quo. Everyone in Nigeria needs a change of heart.
Exactly.
A change of heart. It's not about the disbursement, but the application of it.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, we're talking about productivity. The 4 refineries in Nigeria were built by Toyota of Japan.
Yeah.
You gave the turnaround maintenance to Daewoo, who does not know, does not have the manual of the refinery. All you need to do is go back to Toyota, call them in, repair this refinery, hand it over to the Nigerian society. I lived all my life in Kaduna, where we have textile industry, where we have fertilizer companies. All companies are marry-born in Nigeria. Pigeon was there. Where are they? Michelin, Leventis, Telegram.
Don't go back to the past now.
Where are they? We need to go back to status quo.
So thank you very much, Esson, because there are some people, some unscrupulous Nigerians, who are watching the president's speech and thinking, 1 billion naira. How do I access this money? What can we settle? What kind of company can we settle? Who do we know? How do we know? That's what they're thinking, because the truth is that it still comes back to us. A policy might be good, but some people would see what they can do, who they know that can help them have access to this 1 billion naira that they will get. Because they're thinking of what they're going to use for themselves. They're not thinking of expanding to hire. Because what the president is speculating is that when you create these manufacturing companies, you hire more people, and that's part of what helps the economy.
If I give you 1 billion,
yes,
and I don't monitor you, I'm giving you access to just
anyhow
spend the money anyhow. There has to be checks and balances. I can't give you 1 billion and not check you. And what if you abscond with the 1 billion?
Okay, and if so, but even with the abscond, if I abscond with the money, but I'm not going to get the money back. Who's going to lose? Even if you follow me, right? And I'm not doing what you expected me to do. The money is gone. You put me in jail. Who loses? The Nigerian people at the end of the day, regardless.
Let me give you an example. I remember the Anchor Borrowers program was just government. And unfortunately, I was still working in Abuja at that time. So we wrote a proposal to say, can we do a monitoring evaluation of this program?
Yeah.
To say, these are the things you set out to achieve, and then this is what you have done. Where are the areas you're having challenges or you are not doing well? And then we'll come back to you. One of the feelings I get is that if they are not good, if the report is not going to be good, are we going to release it out there? And for that reason, it was not actually, it was actually supposed to be financed by one of these NGO or foreign NGOs.
Wow.
But we needed an approval from government to get that done. So, so my point is that it's good we introduce policies. But anywhere in the world where policies are having the desired effect, government also have what we call a mechanism for monitoring and evaluation. Okay, that's one point. The second point is that when we say is the individual, and that's why we're talking about one of the killers of productivity today is the civil service. Who are the people that will monitor them? It's the civil service. You agree with me that in those days, government employed the best brain. But today, government is employing almost the third class of people who are not. And these are the ones that will implement the policies and design programs and monitor them. And why is that happening? Because anybody can just go into the civil service today. There is no proper reform for that sector. So we need serious reform in that sector for policies to be properly implemented and monitored. Not the one that somebody is a brother to somebody and he gets there and then he gets approval because I want to just enrich myself. And that's why issue about transparency and accountability is it's one of the driver of productivity.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Mariam. Let me take this call. I'll come to Mariam. Hassan has been calling, holding. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, everyone.
You're live. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
I listened to the speech of Mr. President yesterday with rapt attention. And I sympathize with him. And secondly, I need to scold him for one thing. You see, the issue is this. I can see the frustration of Mr. President by saying that some few elites are the people benefiting and they are holding the country to ransom and they are powerful of derailing even the democracy. I thank Mr. President for that information. But let me be very, very frank with you. Mr. President, we put him there
to solve the problem,
to deal with those few elites. That was why we voted for him, to have the political will to deal with them. They cannot go above the whole country. And secondly, we cannot be penny-wise and foolish. We cannot be floating our naira because we wanted foreign direct investment. Look, Look, you cannot like a foreigner better than your country. Our country is an import-dependent country, whereby we import everything. By the time you block your naira, the value will go down, and you are importing inflation to your people. Secondly, I appreciate it again. He said something yesterday. He said about the flotation of the naira and the petroleum price, that if they will intervene so that it will not get.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hassan.
Sorry, Miriam, I beg, let me just say this. Maria, what I'm trying to say is, if you abscond with the money, I catch you, I jail you, the next person is not going to, because there are no repercussions, like consequences. People keep on getting away with this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That is why I'm saying, who are the people that chop the money in the subsidy? Catch them, block them. Tomorrow, I will come and, if I want to.
You're right.
You know,
we mentioned it yesterday, judiciary, it's very important. Go ahead.
So that's what I was going to talk about, accountability, really. And I was going to mention the tiny group of elites that the president had mentioned that, you know, have derailed the economy because of what they've done with subsidy. And I was going to say that if nothing is done to this group of people, nothing will be expected to be done to people who may derail these new policies that we're about to set out, because they will see that there's a way you can get away with it. Just make sure you're so big and so tight and you have so much money and government may not be able to come for you. So if we want to see, because now what I hear every one of us saying is that now we, the people, is about the implementation. But if we want to see Nigerians change or have a change of mindset, they need to see that there's punishment for bad behavior. Absolutely. And it has to start from those who have derailed the economy the most. Everyone is pointing at them.
We have to wrap up now, but I have to thank you, Mr. Eregba, for joining. I think you've been very enlightening to us, enlightened us on the various angles of this. And I think Nigerians are hopeful. As Tokwe has said, it was indeed a renewed hope speech, you know. But I'd like to end with this speech, that actually this part of his speech that caught my attention, and that was where I connected with him. Our economy is going through a tough patch, and you're being hurt by it. The cost of fuel has gone up. Food and other prices have followed it. Households and businesses struggle. Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were, I would have taken that route, as I came here to help, not hurt the people and the nation that I love. That's what our president said. Was that the one? Part, yeah. That your best part?
Yes, I was like, I feel like I'm being toasted.
You know, and there was another one that caught my attention. He said that the whims, and this goes to what Mike was saying earlier, the whims of the few should never hold dominant sway over the hopes and aspirations of the many. If we are to be a democracy, the people and not power of money must be sovereign. So these guys who have deep pockets, who are trying to truncate our democracy, these elites, they cannot hold sway. And if they don't hold sway, the government must therefore prosecute, name and shame them. That's the only way we can know that indeed this government is in there.
The writer of that speech and the team, they need a bonus because they.
Let me tell you my second best part.
Okay.
Now I must get back to work in order to make this vision come true. I've finished talking. I'm going
back to work.
I don't know that they forget just 1 minute to this last point is that one of the things I think we need to eliminate in Nigeria is crime of calculation. Crime of calculation is a situation where, you know, when you are corrupt, right, the punishment for corruption is lower than the benefit you get.
Yes.
It's a concept in corruption fight. And if we don't eliminate that, anyone coming in will see that even when I'm corrupt, all I need is that I just need to steal a lot of money, and then my punishment is always lower. Maybe a 6 month or somewhere. And then I will come out.
We have to wrap up, unfortunately, but that goes back to the judiciary. Law enforcement, we have to accountable. There's so many parts of this, but we have to wrap up. Congratulations to the president and also the organized private sector, who have also partnered with the government. I took a story yesterday, I think it was UBA, one of the banks, have also trying to provide palliatives for their staff. Governments across the nation, Yobe State, Bauchi, Lagos, and amongst many others are also providing palliatives. That's what the government needs, partnership with both local and state governments to help alleviate this rough patch that we're going through. That's all we can take on this segment. It's Tuesday. Come back with our health. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So it's our Healthy Tuesday, and we'll be discussing migraine. Joining us to discuss this is a consultant family physician and lifestyle medicine physician, Dr. Oduaye Badmus Sekina. Welcome to the show, madam. Good to have you on the show. Migraine is definitely something many of us can relate with. You know, there have been different ways on how to reduce the pain and discomfort of migraines. You know, recently I had one and I kept rubbing my head like this and rubbing. It go for a few seconds. After that, it comes right back. I'm like, oh, these people will be giving all sort of ideas. But let's start with the migraine. How is it different from a headache?
Very well. All right. Thank you very much. Good to be here. So the very first thing is that, you know, when we talk about migraine, the truth is a lot of people just say, I have migraine. In the real sense, do they really have migraine? That's the first question. So when we talk about migraine, we're talking about this recurrent throbbing. Sometimes it can be pulsatile, like you can practically feel your head pulsating, kind of headache. For some people, it is aggravated by movement, just, you know, moving from one part to the other. When some people are having migraine attacks, they can have, you know, they can be nauseous, they can feel like vomiting. For some people, at that point, they just don't want to see any light, no matter how small it is. We call it photophobia. Some people don't even want to hear the slightest sound because all those things actually worsen the headache because of phonophobia. So the reason I said earlier that the truth is, you know, most times people say, I have migraines. We have a lot of headaches. There are different types we have like over 150 types of headache.
Oh, wow.
That's the truth. I mean, the typical one, the common one is actually tension headache, but we're not there today. But typically, that is what migraine is. That's recurrent
and throbbing
or pulsatile kind of headache. Can be associated with nausea, vomiting, photophobia, phonophobia.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, there's something we used to hear.
Oh, go on.
Okay, there's something we used to hear before. They would say it's the one that is on half your head. It's not the full headache. Is it still true?
So it is typically unilateral.
Okay.
Typically, you know, it affects the frontal part or just the side of your head. So I chose that word carefully, typically. So it doesn't mean that you can't have it in other parts of the head, but like you said, yes, it's typically unilateral.
You know why I know that there are different headaches, and what you said is very funny because I always hear a lot of people that just have ordinary headaches. You know, I have migraine because I know about migraine. My grandmother had migraine headaches, and she would shut herself in the room. Her room would be dark. She would be throwing up.
Yes.
I mean, it was terrible. When she felt a migraine headache coming, and she looked so ill. You know, but the funniest thing is, towards the end of her life, she didn't get them anymore. So do you recover?
Well, so the thing is, migraine generally is commoner in females, just like you alluded to in your grammar. We say that in females, like 3 times more common in women than men, and it has a genetic background. It has a genetic predisposition. So if you have a grandparent, or if you have, typically we talk about the first-degree generation. That's your immediate family. If there is anyone in your immediate family with migraine, the chances are that some of the children can have migraine up to 75% time.
Wow.
No, but it's your grandma. It's your grandma, so it's not your immediate first degree relation.
But my mother too. But my mothers were not as serious as my grandmother's.
Yes, so you can see that typically it runs in the family. But we've had cases where there is really no history of migraines in the family, and for some reason, some people have it. So usually when people have it like that, if they have that predisposition, you know, not everybody with the predisposition eventually goes on to have the migraines. That takes us to what we call precipitants. What are those things that would make somebody who is susceptible to migraine to come down with a migraine attack? On the top of that list, one of the precipitants is hormone imbalance, especially estrogen. You would understand why women are at higher risk. So estrogen for women, it is either you are dealing with estrogen during your period, or you are dealing with estrogen during pregnancy, or you are dealing with estrogen at menopause. So it's an estrogen thing all the way. So really, that's like number one on the list. I mean, then for them, other things can be sound. So for some people, sound just triggers their migraine.
Wow.
For some people, it is bright light. For some people, it is flashing light. For some people, it is stress. That's quite common, though. For some people, it is, just... so sometimes some food that we take have actually been known to be precipitants of migraine or triggers. Wow. So our typical, monosodium glutamate that we have in our spices, Maggies and all of that. For some people, it has actually been known to be a precipitant. Some people. Then for some, it can be lack of exercise, not eating well. The truth is, when we talk about precipitants of migraine, it is a whole
broad spectrum. Yes. So how do we, when you have a migraine, what's the first thing you do?
So you need to understand yourself. Okay. Sometimes your symptoms does not typically fall into all of these things. So, and that was why I kept saying usually, typically. Right. It doesn't mean that things don't fall outside this circle, yes. So for people who have migraine, one thing you need to understand is your body. Don't allow somebody say, I have a friend who has a migraine. Our own is usually brought up by light. Now, so what exactly is your problem? No, we are different. Out of all these myriads, there are people who do not fall into any of this. So understand yourself. Try to understand that thing that you do. Maybe when we get to, how we manage, I would emphasize more on that. Try to identify that thing that you do, that brings it up. And we talk about migraine diary or headache diary.
You have to have a diary for it.
Cerebrally, it affects everything around you. Typical migraine sufferers are people who would cancel appointments. They have somewhere to go to. They have a family gathering, and all of a sudden they're saying, I can't do this.
Okay, so I want to ask, is there a blood type that's more susceptible to it? Is there a genetic type?
Yes. I mentioned the fact that it has a genetic.
Yes, so is it
has a genetic background.
Genotype that's more?
No, it's not. There's really no genotype that has been implicated. But, the genetic part is what I said earlier, runs in the family.
You're just born with it?
Yes. The truth is, we are all born.
Me, I've never had a migraine, so I know that I will never get it.
Are you sure?
Well, you cannot say you know that you will never
you're only
get
63.
There's still time. There's still time to have a migraine.
So, I'm just I've been very quiet because since yesterday evening, I've had a very throbbing headache. I don't want to call it migraine since you have said we should not.
Now you're not calling it migraine. Yes. You understand better.
Yeah, we shouldn't call it migraine. And it's something that it's a reoccurring thing for years, that it would come and I'll have to just lie down and I will sleep. I can sleep the entire day, next day, and I will still have that tension by the side of my head. So because you are helping us to correct misdiagnosis, now I don't self-medicate, which means I'm not even using, even though I felt I didn't use anything. Oh, I use herbs. That's not self-medication. Yes, because I'm drinking turmeric and ginger. It's not self-medication. I'm not using Oyibo medicine. I don't self-medicate Oyibo medicine. So how do we properly know what is going wrong? If it is a stress-induced headache, especially if it is one-sided on a side of your head and it's throbbing, could that also be a case of stress, or could it be migraine?
Yes. Okay, I'll start from here. When we talk about migraine headache, in medicine, we don't throw blanket statements. There are bodies that regulate everything. Everything talks about guidelines. Because if there are no guidelines, you won't have international standard. You won't have, a particular system of diagnosis, as it were. So we have standard. And for you to say somebody has migraine, headache, typically unilateral, like I said earlier, throbbing or pulsatile, either worsened or aggravated by movement, and it can be severe. It can be moderate to severe, like we say. That's one thing. That headache itself can last between 4 to 72 hours.
What?
It can really be that bad. It can really be that bad.
Yeah, I know.
When the headaches are ongoing, the person can either feel nauseous or can actually vomit. That person can have that photophobia or phonophobia I mentioned. And typically, the person is not likely to get well if the person does not take something.
So what do you
What do we do? What do we take?
So as regards what you take, of course, what you take. You have to enter the hospital to get that take.
Okay.
However, how do you manage it?
Yeah.
For someone who has migraine, what are the things the person should know? First, understand your precipitants.
Okay.
In the management, we talk about pharmacological and non-pharmacological. So when we say pharmacology, we're talking about drugs.
Medication.
When we say non-pharmacological, we're talking about other things,
Lifestyle.
things other than drugs. And in that non-pharmacological group, we have lifestyle, and we also have, what do we call it? Psychotherapy. So for lifestyle, what are the things we have under lifestyle? We talk about sleep. Good, adequate, restful sleep. We're not talking about sleep 3 hours, no. The typical thing is sleep for 7 to 8 hours, and the question comes, how do you do it? The truth is, even if you don't get to 7 to 8 hours, you can't be close. And that is about you being intentional. Some people will say, I don't know how to sleep. You're killing yourself. So we talk about restful sleep. And it has to be within, 7 to 8 hours. Even if you
6
don't
hours,
get that,
Uncle.
we can manage 6 hours. Do you understand? But we should strive to get to that ideal. That's one thing. Another thing under that, non-pharmacological things, lifestyle related now, would be eating habits. I said earlier that one of the precipitants can be skipping a meal. So eat on time, eat the appropriate thing. A number of times we are stressed, we are busy. A bottle of Coke, some meat pies. That is not healthy. You very well know that it's not healthy. All of these things on their own are issues. Some people say, how is it practicable to get something good to eat? Who says? You can get something small, even if it's a slice of bread and a cup of tea. That would do. Then we also talk about exercise. So exercise is a big topic. And when we talk about exercise, we say exercise is actually a prescription. A lot of people will just get up from bed, I want to exercise today, and the person starts exercising. No. The exercise I'm going to prescribe for you might be different from the exercise I'll prescribe for you based on some peculiar things in your body. For somebody who is hypertensive, we don't say, go all the way and start biking. Go all the way and start skipping. You need to control that blood pressure. But it doesn't mean that during that period of time, that person cannot do anything. And that is where this prescription thing comes in. It has to be specific to what you're facing at that point in time. Another thing we talk about is to have a diary. Headache diary. What does that headache diary? What does the headache diary talk about? When do I have this headache? As in what time? Is it around 2 p.m.? Does it happen around 10 p.m.? What are the things? What were the things I did around that time? Did I take a bottle of Coke? Did I take some chocolates?
So you're mentioning brand names, and the brand names shouldn't be associated with something because there are many people in that same.
Okay, no
there are many drinks, soft drinks within that same category that could trigger.
Yes. The specific drink is actually a caffeine-containing drink.
And there are many of them.
There are many of them. A caffeine-containing drink. So these are things that somebody else can take that same thing and not have the triggers. You need to understand that. And that is why that diary is very important. Okay. Is it that after I took some chili, some pepper or some salt, was that when I had the headache? These are things you need to note down.
Please, I also noticed something with me having headaches. So when I wear wigs for a long time.
Okay.
No.
You're now looking for how YK can control us today.
Because she's telling us to trace. And I think I've mentioned it. Almost everybody knows.
Okay, it's going to troll you for this.
So, and for some people, it might be, and even with my natural hair, if I pack my hair up into a tight and I tie it, it's not a guesswork. I'm 100% sure 1 hour with it, I have a headache. So sometimes I pack the hair on the show. After that, I have a headache for like.
Mine is tying the hair ties.
Yes.
Oh, I can't.
So understanding, I get that, and I get the part of tracking. I feel many of us are feeling burdened with the idea of tracking. What did we do to precipitate the headache? And thank you for the lifestyle
okay, I have a
advice.
Call. I've been holding for it. Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Take your call.
Yeah, Murayo, good morning.
You're live.
Good morning, everyone.
Go ahead, please.
Because of time, Murayo, I don't know, maybe I can talk about last topic quickly because I have something to say concerning Lagos State Court 50% on DRC. And then they still mention yellow bus. Well, I don't know how they're going to do that. Because the yellow buses buy PLS, 600 naira, 560 something. How are they going to do it? But for me, I think this NURTW issue should be looking into. If you know how much NURTW has taken from this guy, Brian, you know that it is load, full load, and for 4,000 naira, maybe you are good from Lagos to Ibadan. The NURTW is the 2% money, which is 8,000 naira. Where this thing is going to, even the bus stop under the bridge, there was no garage. They will be collecting every time you pass into it, bus stop, they will be collecting money. So how are they going to cut all those yellow buses instead? I don't know how they.
All right, thank you, Yakub. We'll see how the government plans to work with it.
I really love that call, and I think you need to do it as a hot topic.
But she still needs to share.
Yes.
We have just a few minutes left, but go ahead, please.
Okay, no problem. So, so I said, lifestyle things. The last thing under the lifestyle thing would be stress management. Stress management is a big topic on its own. There are a lot of things to talk about. However, for the sake of time, there was something else we talked about. We said psychotherapy. So under psychotherapy, what do we talk about? One of it is mindfulness. We call it physical therapy as a body, but under that physical therapy, there are a lot of things there. So meditation, yoga, and when we say mindfulness, a lot of people would wonder what exactly you're talking about. When we say mindfulness, we're saying that you're doing something, the number of times you're doing something, but we're not into that thing. You're not into that thing. So in mindfulness, for those who do yoga, that is what it teaches you. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, just try to think back. All of these things have been known to help with the symptoms of migraine.
I'm a local woman in a village. I've never heard of yoga. How would I have?
That was what, closing your eyes, as in sitting in one place, closing your eyes, and taking that deep breath, bring it down little by little. Something everybody can.
And also being mindful of every single thing you're doing, like putting your mind in it.
Yes, and it has actually been shown that when you do that, the symptoms just go down on their own. So sometimes when you're alone in your small space, you've shut out all the lights because of the symptoms, you just take that deep breath, just calm down, think it through, just internalize your feeling at that point in time. And for some reason, it is relaxing on its own.
So someone like Tokwe, for instance, who she's been having this headache, it's not migraine. It is probably a tension headache.
Yeah, I slept and I couldn't sleep.
Okay, so like I said earlier,
and it could be blood pressure as well.
Not all the symptoms. Headache is a non-specific symptom in medicine. From tumors to high blood pressure to stress, there are a lot of things that would bring up headache. And that is why it is very, very important for you to step out and see someone. See the right person. Then, for those who think they have migraine all along, just try to think it through. However, I said it earlier that it may not follow these typical symptoms.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sikina. I think we've learned quite a few from you. At least now I know today that headache is different from migraine. I've always known it was different, but I did not realize how different migraine was different from really intense headache. But thank you for helping us have a better understanding. That's all we can take on today's show. Hope you learned a few things as we have. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.